we were contacted at Landmark Legal Foundation, my general counsel was, respecting a Tea Party group, more than one really. And they said, look, we're trying to get an exempt status. You cannot believe the kind of information they're asking us in order to get an exempt status like so many other organizations. And we were hearing this from a lot of groups. So my general counsel spoke with a number of these folks, and we got access to their information and went through it. And I personally concluded that this was way over the top, a violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. There was no legitimate purpose in many of the questions that were being asked. They were obviously intended to put so much of a burden on individuals to reveal personal information and other information about family members and so forth, that the goal was to prevent them from getting an exempt status. Now, having dealt with the Internal Revenue Service before, it was my conclusion that it would be a mistake to go to the Internal Revenue Service and ask them to resolve this or explain this, because typically they stonewall. Well, that's a tax matter, we're not going to give you information. And I know other legal groups or another legal group is representing a whole bunch of groups. The problem is that's a dead end, because the Internal Revenue Service, and there are a number of federal laws, you can thank Congress for this, isn't going to reveal much information even to lawyers who represent these groups. So we, the lawyers at Landmark Legal Foundation, concluded we're going to go to the Treasury Department's Inspector General's office, because the Internal Revenue Service is part of the Treasury Department. Even though it's an independent part, the Inspector General's office still oversees conduct within the department, and that would include the Internal Revenue Service. So we put together a fairly extensive letter with attachments, in essence a complaint. And we filed it on March 23, 2012 with the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration. And after the break, I'm going to read you some of the letter, so you can know the types of questions that were being posed for the purpose of politicizing the Exempt Organizations Division of the Internal Revenue Service. Now, let's move forward a little bit. The Associated Press reported today, I mean, why am I even talking about this? Because they reported today that the head of the Exempt Organizations Division, Lois Lerner, essentially confessed that scores of Tea Party and conservative groups were in fact targeted for maltreatment. And she apologized for it, which is frankly extraordinary, but it's not good enough, but it is extraordinary. She apologized for it, and she didn't apologize for it because they're just sorry about it. I'm sure she apologized for it because they're being investigated by the Inspector General's Office, Tax Administration Division of the Treasury Department. How do I know this? Because shortly after I signed this letter and sent it to that division of the Treasury Department, two of their agents came and interviewed me. They spent about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, going through the letter that we sent to them, laying out the case, in addition to the law, federal statutes, and so forth, and we provided them with whatever background information we had, as well as names and so forth. And by the way, they were both armed, and I even said, geez, you guys are armed. What's that all about? And they said, well, we're law enforcement. So in effect, these two men were the equivalent of FBI for the Treasury Department.